Hello and welcome to a new edition of the Low Code Café, episode number 17. So today it will be something that you've seen a bit in the past, but also just reiterating on the new stuff and the old stuff, which is dashboards. Dashboards in many different flavors. The built-in modules, but also we'll show you how to integrate other dashboards like Google and ChartJs. So it will be a very interesting one to see in the hands-on part. In the meantime, just a few words for those that are new to this webinar. We do it every week, and it's an event that's focused on the community and on our team being here, being present, communicating, and showing the new stuff that we are doing, new techniques of developing low-code systems, while also building something useful. Right? So in every edition, we continue building a system. And for the past 7 editions, we've been working on a marketing system, which you'll get to see in the hands-on part. And this event is recorded, so all the past episodes are available on our YouTube channel. And then you can, we also added chapters on each video, so you can browse through them and just see one part of the each episode that's of more interest to you. We also have other parts in this webinar. We'll have Dale show us some stories from the trenches, from the support. Dale leads our support efforts. We'll also have Reza Garrow that leads our product development team to give us a highlight, what's coming, and also do some feature demos like we'll see today. And then we'll jump to the hands-on part and we'll do the dashboards. Before jumping to Dale, we announced it a couple of weeks ago, and I want just to give a brief update. We announced this equity crowdfunding campaign and our efforts to reposition DNN for the future as a low-code development platform, which is much sexier than DNN.NET New Core CMS. So repositioning in that can bring a lot of benefits to all of us, to the entire ecosystem. So just to give a brief upgrade, let's look a bit at the campaign page. So we are able to reach our minimum investment, which was 25K, which was a big milestone for us. So thanks to everyone that invested into the future of DNN, that invested in us and in all of us, all of the ecosystem. So what happens now once we reach the minimum investment Republic, so this equity crowdfunding platform that we are using, they will start their own marketing efforts. So what this means that we'll have a much bigger reach to 700,000 investors that they have registered in the platform. So it's a very good milestone, and the newsletters, their efforts will start today and continue over the next few weeks. So I'm looking forward to see what happens here. And I truly appreciate everyone that got involved, everyone that invested, and let's keep this momentum going as it will bring us closer to a glorious future. Cool. So just a few rules. If you want to say anything, if you want to engage in the conversation, feel free to use any tool at your disposal, even doing voice chat, Q&A. The only rule is there are no rules in terms of communication. You can never have enough communication. So without further ado, I will stop my share and give it up to Dale to give us some nice tips and tricks from the support.
Great. Hello, hello. It feels like I've been gone forever. I missed a couple of meetings for personal reasons, so glad to be back. I wanted to touch on a couple of things. Just wanted to mention, first of all, that we have added a number of new videos to our low-code feature focus in October, and they're coming from a variety of contributors, not just my voice, but Patrick and Reza, and we've got a lot of good content in there. So I just encourage you to sign up, and I'll post this link here in a little while to the chat, but this low-code feature focus, and there's a lot of good content there. Today, I thought I would talk a little bit about leveraging SQL and tokens. We've talked in looking at tokens in past episodes. We've dealt with Razor scripts and other things, but I kind of approach the world as a SQL developer, and so I find it very easy to use SQL when I'm developing tokens. Sorry for skipping around. I wanted Bogdan had mentioned, I'm going to skip back talking about these videos. We've been getting some pretty good engagement. We've got 87 subscribers to our channel. We're seeing a lot of interaction with our videos, and some of our, it's both what we're processing, people going back over the low-code cafe, but also our announcements and the low-code feature focus. So we're glad, and we encourage you to sign up for the YouTube channel. So talking about tokens, back to tokens, just going to focus in on some simple examples today, but that kind of may open your eyes to how tokens can be used in SQL. So for example, if I wanted to display like this, where we wanted to say what today was, and I wanted to shout that it was Wednesday, so we did some uppercasing, and also that we had it's day 295 of the year and week 43 of the year. Those kinds of things are very easily computed using SQL, and so leveraging a token to make that happen is what we're going to talk about. So to do that, let's see, what I find is kind of an easy place to start is if you're working with SQL, so then you're going to have the SQL Server Management Studio open. You can develop your SQL, what you want to happen in SQL Server Management Studio, and then just do a couple of copy and pastes to make it happen in the token manager. So for example, if I want to be able to, I'm not going to, let's see, I want to try and run this query. If I wanted to be able to do uppercase and lowercase, so uppercasing the hello world or lowercasing it, or to be able to convert a date and pull out a date part, you could develop the SQL to do that in the SQL Server Management Studio, and then copy and paste. So let's say I wanted to do this this lowercase as a token. So we would come into configuration of Plant an App, or your My Tokens. If you're using Dan and Sharp, go into Tokens, and I'm going to create a namespace for this. I'm going to call it the Café namespace. It's just a way to put everything related to a particular topic in one place. And so I'm going to create my first token and call this lower, or actually I'm going to call it to lower. And I'm not going to give it a default value. For a database query, I'm going to, or excuse me, for a type, I'm going to call it a database query, and I'm going to paste my the SQL that I've developed into it. And instead of using a constant, I've added the parameter token params, and this is a special thing that allows us to pass a parameter in, and I'm calling it string. So then we will, it's outputting a string as a result. So we're converting it to lowercase and outputting it. And so I'm going to call that the default column. And when I save this and test it, it automatically develops the test down here. And so I'm going to say hello world and run that, and you'll see that it lower cases it. So just a very simple, so this is just to demonstrate that anything that you can do with SQL that returns a result, any kind of function that you get out of SQL, you can use to get content into your, whether it's in a form, a grid, wherever you can use a token, that's where you can use this. So let's take one that's a little bit more complex. I'm going to pass in 2 tokens. So this one is going to be I'm going to add a token that's called date part. And the definition of it is also going to be a database query, and I'm going to paste my query in here. So in this, I'm doing a little bit more complex SQL where I'm passing in, where I'm declaring a date time variable, and then setting the date time variable equal to a date that I'm going to pass in, and the variable name is going to be date. And then I'm selecting out using the date part parameter that's being passed in through token params, and it's going to return, it's going to execute that against in date. So that's going to let me pull any standard SQL date part out. And I'm also putting this in a try catch block so that if the date is bad, I'm going to return blank as a result, so I don't return an error message. So let's see, the output of that thing is going to be result, and so I'm going to make that be my default column. And so when we test it, it generated an error anyway. Database definition, of course. And so I'm going to cheat, and instead of figuring out what went wrong with that, I already have it working here in a demo setup. So I'm just going to execute that. See the smoke and mirrors that I'm using today. And so when I save and test that, it gives me, oh my goodness. Well, it was working a while ago. I promise you it was working a while ago. But anyway, that's the idea. That
maybe should be actual date in there instead of value.
Sure, but the catch block should have given me and the date part we'll do is dy, and we'll try that. All right, so it's working. For some reason, my catch block isn't working. So thanks for that, Bogdan. So in this case, I'm saying 12/31/2020, and I'm asking for the day of the year, and it's telling me that it's day 366. If I ask for the week, it would give me week 53. And all those comes from, you can search these online, but date part, all the various intervals that are available, so you can pull out year, quarter, month, day of year, day. So it just, in one quick token, it gives you access to a whole bunch of content. So let's see, that is really what I had for today. Just a quick opening up your eyes of how you can use SQL and that token params functionality. And I just would say also that it can be two-way. I've developed tokens that can store data in the database as well as retrieve data out of the database. They can be quite sophisticated. So happy to answer any questions about that. And otherwise I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks, Dave. I don't think we have any questions so far, but if there will be any coming up, I will revert it back to you. So thanks for showing us very powerful technique. I mean, the tokens in general, they can be the backbone of the especially the UI, right? Like automating the things that needs to be displayed on the UI. So
yep, they're kind of the Swiss Army knife of capabilities, and then those together with the workflows can really be powerful.
Yep, I agree. So thanks a lot. Let's move on to the next part of our webinar, which is Reza presenting us the product development, the roadmap, but also seeing some things in action. And today, Reza will show us a bit of dashboards, which follows naturally into the next part, which is building dashboards for the marketing system, more advanced dashboards. So Reza.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to just give you a quick update on release 1.10. That's the one we're in right now. Things are tracking well. Some of the key features we have coming is the new listing module, which kind of takes the place of Action Grid and gives some much more modern look and feels. The big highlight there being the calendar template and being able to point to a data source that has some sort of date fields involved with it. and making that interactive, showing week, month, day views, agendas, things that are coming up, kind of like what you're used to seeing in Outlook or Google Calendars, except it's with your data and you can interact with it and raise forms and all kinds of things. Also the one-click license activation, that's going to be kind of part of our series of huge time savers and making it really fast and quick to not only get going, but as you add add-ons and different things in modules that you are not using yet, they will just automatically take the licensing that you've provided upon initial setup or install of the system. That's coming out this release. There may be a relicensing that comes into play, but it'll just be a one-time kind of quick thing. It'll prompt you, you'll put it in, you're done, you're good from there on out. We've got a really slick new skin we're working on. In this release, we're just kind of getting it, the groundwork for it laid and testing it out with all the modules, probably be releasing that in 1.11. And then a couple of the things I want to show here in a second. We've got from your data standpoint and the data model, a decimal type field now that's been introduced, and we'll take a look at that and what that impact will be to how you use it, and it won't break anything that you've already set up, and I'll show how that's going to work. And then as Bogdan mentioned, I wanted to show some things we're doing with taking the KPI tile dashboard to the next level. So with that said, let's take a look. So kind of just jumping in, and I'll start here with the from the entities view. I've got an entity created here called numbers, and I've already set it up, and we'll see it on the front end. I just wanted to show you how you'll set these up. So in the past, I'll just set it up again. You had a number type field only. It was just called number, and we've split those out. And so what you actually had all along was an integer, a whole number that you could use. And what you have now is we've broken it out, and you can pick number integer or number decimal. And that will give you this time out a precision of 4 decimal places, 4 spots after the decimal. You don't have to make use of all of those. Probably a more common type thing is 2 decimal places, but you have the room to grow. And in the subsequent releases, we're going to make that be definable by you when you're defining your entity in the field in particular. But you can control what gets shown there and the precision and things. And we just wanted to make sure you had enough room to kind of grow and go from a database standpoint. But on the front end, you're in control of how many decimal places you want to show, even now when this first releases. And so that's all you would do is pick. Now, money is there as well. And just maybe kind of a FYI, in case you didn't know, that is also making use of a decimal field in the database. It's not a money type field in the database, but actually a decimal. The difference here is that if you were picking money so you could use a decimal, you were getting all the currency stuff and symbols and validations and things for money. So it was a bit of a hack before, and we got some good feedback on that. And yep, obviously a missing feature there. And so you can just pick decimal now and make use of that. And that is already propagated throughout the system. So like in your workflows, if you have an input, you can see now that that's available there as well. And it will take in and return out decimal fields, whether you're reading them from your entity or passing it through as part of your input or output parameters. On the front end, what that looks like, pretty straightforward then. So I've got this entity, it's got an integer, decimal, and money, and I just wanted to show the 3 different types of number fields that the system has right now. And you'll get all your validations and things like that as well if you don't put that in. And so the number integer field now won't let you put decimals in. You'll want to make sure that you are using decimal. And if you say like, well, what if I sometimes have a decimal, but it can also be a whole number, and you can still make use of that. It'll just do the 0.00 there for you. And like I said, that will go up to 4 deep if you're doing some deeper accounting or things like that. So then the cool one I wanted to show you is the tiles. We saw these, they came out, I think, last release. In this release 1.10 that's coming out, you will have the option to, on any entity you create and the page structure that's done for you, to have this placed on the screen ahead of time. So it'll be there waiting for you to configure. You won't have to, add it manually and things anymore, but you'll still be able to say, you know what, on this screen, I don't need a dashboard. So it'll be a choice in the entity builder. Do you want to have a dashboard on this page or not? And it'll put it in. It's a small change from user experience standpoint, but huge from what you can do. And essentially what we've done is add in a where clause, right? So in the past, what you could really do, and it was handy and neat, but I think this is really taking things to the next level. So I've got this simple ticketing example here. And what I could have done before without the where clause was just to say, give me a count of all the tickets, right? Or that have come in the last 7 days. But as you can see, I've got a status field, for example, new, open, resolved, closed. I've also got types here, support, hardware. And what I can do now with this simple where clause is make use of these other data points that I have in my entity so that I can say, okay, well, I just want to know how many new ones I have, how many open ones I have. Things like it supports tokens as well. So kind of a good lead in from Dale there. I don't want to just see open tickets, but I want to see, open tickets that are assigned to me. And so that we have that owner field there. And you can see, simple as just, you don't type the where part in itself. And there will be a little code editor that'll validate your SQL and stuff. And this is all just kind of new, but I wanted to give you a sneak peek at it. And so you can use the token syntax in here. You can do subqueries and things like that. If your SQL is advanced, you can do some pretty powerful things. But at the highest level, the simplest thing is just to come and say, okay, I know my status 1 is new ones. So just status equals ones, pulls those in. Same exact setup. The only difference here is status is 2. These are open ones. And so you can, and as we saw when I originally demoed this and rolled it out, you can configure the templates here. And so pretty simply, and you can clone it, you can edit it. And if I just copy pasted and added more cards in, more rows of cards, you can have whole pages that are heat maps that are showing you all kinds of things. And they can be specific even to the user who signed in. So you can combine them with tokens just using and syntax and things like that. But your imagination's the limit here, but you can get really targeted and specific about what you want to show in these tiles. We're not going to be done in this release with what we're rolling out. I think last time we talked about this one, someone had asked about the data source of SQL. And that would be, you would think that that's like, let me type my own SQL statement and specify. And that's probably what we're going to end up doing with that one. It's a longer putt, but I wanted to get some extra value out. And so much like the listings has, where you can pick a table or a view as a data source, that's what this one's going to become. And I think we'll have that delivered this release. That way, everything works just the same way Entities does. Entities are just tables in our system, in the database, but they're ones that are kind of created and managed by App Builder. Now, if you've already got a system that you've installed App Builder on top of, or you have some third-party data that's out there in a totally different database, and you have the connection string and access to it, you'll be able to pick that here, and then it will let you select these options and do the aggregations, and just like you would on Entities, and you'll be able to add the where clause as well. So you'll be able to start mixing and matching, pulling in data from different sources. So I think that's a huge step forward. And while the irons are kind of hot, we're going to keep going on this one. We're looking at making the colors dynamic. So you can say, hey, if my value is more than 5 past due tickets or something, I want it red. Otherwise, normally I want it green. And so you'll be able to start alerting these. And then I think what'll really bring this together and make it kind of not just outputting data, but a full experience is wanting to make these tiles clickable. And you'll be able to define actions just like you would on Action Grid or Form. Like I have this button here, and when I push it, I can say, what do I want to have happen? You'll be able to filter the listing below. You'll be able to maybe raise a pop-up and show them some of the data that is being reflected in the numerical value. You can redirect to a different page, kick off a workflow, all kinds of things. So maybe you've got some errors or something that you're logging that the system's been accumulating, and you want to show them to a user, or you want to clear them or restart something. The dashboard will show you, hey, alert, you've got something here. And when they push it, you can actually kick off a workflow and have the system resolve that for you. So, these are the building blocks, the Legos, and your imagination is kind of limitless on what you're going to be able to do with this. And that'll be, like I said, about half of that this release and the other half in the next release. And I think we'll have a very complete solution there. After that, we'll move into other types of visualizations. And I don't want to spoil anything, but things like Radu is going to be showing you are going to be able to come out of here. But when you don't need the quick and easy way, and sometimes you want flexibility, you have that as well. And that's what you're going to see here now.
Awesome, Reza. We also have a question in the chat from Jim Anthony. So until the Decimat format is available as parameters to workflow, only integers are allowed?
Well, yes, officially, technically, if you use the money field, like I said, under the hood, that's a decimal. And so in a workflow, no one or nothing's going to know that it's money, right? It's really just that it'll take in a decimal. So you can do that for now. Like I said, we'll have kind of a release candidate ready early next week. And if that was something you were really itching for, we can make it available for some testing and early access. But for now, you can use money. And this should be coming in the next couple of weeks, and then it'll be proper.
Awesome. So then, Reza, I would invite you to take over the next part with Radu to discuss, to see how Radu would use these dashboard modules, but also the more low-code, the more low-level ways of integrating other third-party engines. So Radu, if you want to join, share your screen.
Sure. Also, Reza, regarding the last question, is text an option for the input parameter of the workflow?
It is. I think it depends a little bit what you're doing. I think if you were really trying to use the field in a scenario like a JavaScript action or something where the type matters, it might trip it up. And also if you pick text, but it will take text, right? Whereas the integer would reject that input. So yes, text will work if it's most cases. If it's something that's a little bit picky or you know, kind of code specific, you might leak in some data that you don't want, and it can cause some. So as long as you trap for that or plan for that, you'll be fine with text as well. Good idea.
Cool. I just noticed I need a stronger light bulb. Okay, cool. Before I start with charts and everything, Reza, I just want to show something to everyone that you can actually make. So you can make the cards clickable by adding, you know, you can make them clickable and execute JavaScript code. As you can see here, when I'm clicking the first one, I'm getting a message that I've clicked it. So this thing, what you can do with this, you can go and click select template, and you can go edit the one that you are using, and very easy you can add the on-click tag, HTML tag here. And this is an alert, but you can do all other things with it. And maybe if we have time, I can show you at the end how you can utilize the cards to filter action grades or open forums in pop-up or other stuff like this. Okay. First thing first, I will use the home page as my dashboard page for the moment being. So what I will need to do is, for the first step, is to add an action form here. So I'm just gonna click on edit here and add module. I'm gonna add an action form, and I'm gonna put it here. All right, and I'm gonna click on the manage form. Let me start. Maybe I can duplicate this really quickly so we can have a view also. All right, so I'm gonna call it dashboard. All right, so the first things first. So the easiest way to bring a chart to a dashboard is to utilize the built-in action form feature of showing Google Charts. And to do that, you'll just need to search for chart as a field, and a Google Chart field is going to appear here. Let's call it Google Chart 1. And you need here, as you can see, you need to paste some Google Chart HTML code. So to do that, you can go to any, you know, developers at Google. To basically, you need to search for Google Charts Py for example, in my situation, and they're going to provide you with a small code that you can just copy paste, and you're going to get, for example, this code that represents what you are seeing right here. So to do that, I'm just gonna copy this one. I'm gonna put, sorry, I didn't copy it. Copy. I'm gonna add it here. Let me make this bigger. And
Radu, before you
yes,
save, could I just ask a question? So I see you've
please.
copied the HTML and head tags,
Yes.
but those are already applied on the page you're on. Will we forgive that, or should they not copy the HTML part at
We are
least?
gonna forgive this because I think we are using iframes behind the scenes. So this is actually another small page inside the big page. Okay, the only thing that I'm gonna do right now, so we don't have issues later, I'm just gonna add the number 1 here and here, which is the indicator that this code should apply to this specific div element. And I'm just gonna go and click save. Now let's go back to the home page and see what we got. So yeah, exactly what you saw here on the Google demo page, we can add here in our custom page. But as you can see here, let's go back to the edit of this. The values are hard coded here. So yeah, that's okay if you want just to show a nice. Maybe the data only changes once per year, so it makes sense to just come here and update some of the values. But what happens if the data updates more regularly, maybe once a month, once a week, once a day, once a minute, whatever? So in that case, maybe you will need a more dynamic way. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna clone this one that we have right here. I'm gonna change the name. So I prepared a small adjustment to this one. I'm just gonna replace this with so what I actually want to try to do here, I want to do a pie chart that are gonna show us the type of emails that we are storing in our contact list. But for the moment, what I did, instead of the hard-coded values, I'm using my tokens. I'm actually using the randomized token with values from 1 to 6. Just to show you that data can start being dynamic just from the Google chart. So I'm just gonna click save. I'm gonna come and refresh this really quickly. Did I? Oh, I see. I know what I did wrong. Give me 1 second. I think I might. So yeah, it's important to change the indicators. Otherwise, they overwrite one over each other. So my bad. And let's put them one aside the other and go save and try again. Okay, so those are my maybe not my daily activities. Those are actually my email types that I'm storing, but those are random values for the moment being. So this is not something really relevant. And on each refresh of the page, this on the right is just going to change based on the random values that I'm storing. But I want real values in this situation. So if we want real values, now seeing that we can use, we can use tokens here. Why not create our own my token and bring actual data? And let me rename this to email types. And I'm gonna just click save really quickly. All right, so let's define some tokens that can actually bring the real data of the email types. Tokens. I'm just gonna go and add a new token. Oh, not namespace. Sorry. Well, I can do this. Dashboard. A new namespace really quickly, and a new token. I'm just gonna call it email type. In the dashboard, the default value, we can make 0 in this situation. I want to be a database query, and for this query, I know in the past webinars I was writing a lot of queries, so I prepared those in this situation. And something that actually Dale showed you earlier, how to utilize the token params to have a token that can bring different data. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna, instead of hard coding having 3 tokens that brings each individual type of emails that I have in the system, why not have a token that brings me based on a parameter? Maybe I ask count. Okay, and the column that I want is count. Okay, oh, the default column, sorry. Okay. And I don't want any cache for this one. And other options, no. And I can just click and save. Now we know that the IDs for the types are from 1 to 3. So at least I know, but trust me, there are 1 and 3. So 1 is for business. I think 2 is for personal, and the ID number 3 is for temporary email addresses. And it also has 1 value. So what I can do right now is copy this token from here, go back to my chart, and just say, let's replace the random ones here and say you are going to be number 1 and you are going to be number 2. All right. And you are going to be number 3. Cool. And I'm going to go and click save and go. All right. Let me open the homepage again. And you can see this is actual real data. So I have four business emails, 1 personal, and 1 temporary. So this is how I brought some dynamic information to my charts. But in some situation, maybe this is not enough. Maybe what happens, and let me put it that way. So for the moment being, we only have, as you can see here in the contacts, we only have 3 types of email types, or maybe more explicit. I can go here and I can show you that I have three email types. So, and if I go and add a new one, and I don't know how to call, a dummy. Cool email.
School.
Oh, school. All right, school email. And maybe I can also go to my contacts really quickly here, and maybe I can change one of the business to a school address. I can click update. Now, if I go back to to the home page, you can see, well, the values represented here are true. I have 3 business, 1 personal, and 1 temporary. But you see, I'm missing the 4th one. I'm missing the school one, because each time I add a new email type, I will need to go here, open my chart, and add a new entry here about school and the type ID. But don't understand that this is wrong, because in some situation, and I saw situation where you have 4 or 10 or hundreds of KPIs that you are watching, but only 3 of those are really interested in your situation. So maybe this makes sense in some situation where you're only tracking business, temporary, and personal, because that's all the only emails that you really care about. Maybe the school is not something you care about. So this actually makes sense to hard code the actual things that you are interested in a dashboard. Now, for my next trick, the next chart that I want to show you. So this what I just showed you is Google Charts. We also, and I actually like using it. It's called ChartJs, and ChartJs is an open source JavaScript library, and it has a lot of samples. It's the community, and it's very nice. You can search about information everywhere on the internet. Stack Overflow is full of solutions. It has a lot of plugins, and it has very nice samples here that you can look through. Personally, I like it because it's more. It gives me more power than the basic Google Charts. And what I'm going to show you next is how the same email, the same chart here, I'm going to do with, I'm going to add the ChartJs, and I'm going to make it in such a way that it's going to also update based on the values, but also update, let's say, based on the labels. So for doing that, I will need to do 2 things in preparation. First thing first, it will be for me to load a static file. So that I need to load the the JS file for the chart to work. So I can here search for load static files, and I will go and add a new parameter. I'm just gonna call it chart.js, and I have the URL here. So the idea is that I loaded the JS file, as you can see here, locally on this instance, but I think there are CDNs that you can use, and you can just copy paste the URLs pretty easy here. Yeah, this is one thing that I need in preparation, and another thing, and this is actually something that it's ChartJs, it's specific for ChartJs. I would like to put this this small JavaScript here, which is actually gonna give me access to some predefined colors that ChartJs uses, and I well, let's say the pie. So I really enjoyed those colors, so I copied them from the demo actually, and add them to my initializing script. So they're gonna be available for any chart that I add on this action form, or I think also for all the charts that are available on this page. Those are gonna be some pretty nice colors. Now, continuing on adding the ChartJs, you will need to add a static text, and let's say chart JS pie. Okay, so also I have a small well, not really that small in this situation, but a predefined script here. Maybe I can just show you really quickly, or let me do something else. Let me save this really quickly as it is. Let me go in the full screen mode, and we can have a better look like this. Not you. All right, so let me open this. All right, so we don't need the colors.
Hey, Radu, how did you make that full screen happen?
I pressed F11.
Good tip. And then F11 puts it back?
Yes. And I can also switch to the dark mode. I think I'll keep it like this. I like it more. Okay, so you see the colors that I just defined are going to be used here, but I'm not really interested in this at this moment. What I would like to do right now is well, this is something I should have removed, most likely. Okay, so this is the actual code. So the idea is that you have a config JSON object where you define what type you want, and there are some, this is the actual data that you want to display, and those are actually the labels for the data. So number one is actually relevant for value one, value two is relevant with the data from data two, and value three represents well, value three. The other option is if you want the chart to be responsive, so I think this should be enabled as also, and this is the title is just basically the title of it. The rest is just the init of the, you know, loading the chart itself. Be careful, exactly the same thing as the Google Charts, to have a canvas with the ID that is matching the init call here.
So, Radu, real quick, yes. Can you go back? I just want to make sure I kind of understand what's happening here. So there's really three parts to this, right?
Yes.
The top part is just an HTML element that's actually by itself just empty, but it's what's going to get the chart injected and put into it, right?
Yeah.
The second part that's in the script, really, it looks like a lot, but it's just some settings that ChartJs has, and I'm sure they document and explain these well on their site. And this is just where I can set my colors, define my data, my labels, that sort of thing. And then at the bottom, it's not really anything I need to worry about too much. It's just the code that tells ChartJs to go and build the chart out and stick it inside that canvas up there, right? The only thing I need to watch out for is making sure, since that code down there is going to run and say that get element by ID, it's going to say find something on my page that has this ID and go put the chart there. And that's why it's important that we ID that the same as what we're calling down there in code, right?
Yep, exactly. So let me just save as it is right now. Let me maybe put it like here, otherwise it's gonna be way too big. And give a quick refresh. All right. So now we have my new ChartJs. So it's similar to this, but for the moment being, we still don't have the same the values that we want to see. Like in well, this is wrong at this moment, but we want to show also the school as an element. So in this chart. So now, I know maybe people said this is gonna be an ugly trick that I'm doing here, but I really enjoy doing this. So let me show you something something interesting that I'm doing with some SQL. So already prepared a query here that actually is telling me the name, the number of email addresses, and the ID for this specific email type. So if I run this, you see I have the business, personal, temporary, and school, and each individual have how many of those emails I have and the ID. But what I found interesting, and this is actually a thing that you can find in the latest SQL servers, I think 2017. It's the late
16,
16 is you can add for JSON path JSON path at the end, and if you run this is going to transform in a JSON, and you know a JSON is really easy to manipulate inside some JavaScript. So what we can do, what I usually do in those situations, I just copy the query as it is, and I'm going back to the tokens. Where is my dashboard? Okay, dashboard, and I'm just creating a new, let's say, email type JSON data. In dashboard, no, all right, maybe an empty array, and I'm just gonna go and do another database query. I'm just gonna paste the query here. Nothing. I'm not gonna change anything else. Maybe I can specify that name is my default column, and I can click save and test. Name what?
You got to add the columns down below under
Oh,
default column.
well, the problem here is that for JSON path doesn't have an for JSON path. I know what's the problem. For JSON path doesn't have a default column name. But if it doesn't let me save it, I think this is gonna still work only in the old interface of my tokens. Because I cannot save the token otherwise. So let me just put name for the moment being.
Could you not put it down below in columns?
Sorry?
If you also added it there?
The problem is that it's generating with a name that I don't know here. See, so this is my column name, so I don't know that. So the only trick to save this token is I think I'll have to go to the old interface.
Or maybe you can put it directly into the action form. Will that work?
Well, yeah, that can work. That can also work. So let me copy this in this situation. Yeah, you're right. I can do that. I can go on the pre-init of the form, and I can say this is my py JSON data, and that's it. And I can take the store the result, which is a JSON in this situation, and I can just come back to my ChartJs, and I can say here var py data equals this specific token, and I know this is not some valid JavaScript, but keep in mind this is going to replace with a valid JSON, so we are going to be safe when this is going to get replaced. Another thing that we will need to do is, because as you can see, maybe I can show it here for you. As you can see here, there are some objects of composing the name, the count, and the ID, while ChartJs only wants all the values here and all the labels here. So just to do that, I again prepared a small 2 JavaScript lines here that are really useful. So what I'm actually doing, I'm creating two new arrays with the labels and the actual data that I want, by remapping the actual big array into smaller arrays. And what I need to do in this now is I just need to take the data variable and add it here instead of 1, 2, 3, and I can copy the labels 1 and just go and replace the labels array here. Okay, and I think that's it for us to have a dynamic chart.js. Let me refresh this really quickly and see. Exactly, those values now actually represent what I have in the database. And what I find really useful is you can actually click on the labels and hide some of the values. Now Now the idea is that, yeah, that's pretty cool. We have like, I know that there are 3 business email addresses, but what are those email addresses? How do I see them really easy? What do I have to click, go to the email templates and email type, sorry, maybe, you know, filter though, or not here, sorry, I think on the contacts, my bad. Go to the contacts page, and after that, well, I don't have the filter enabled, so this is going to be a pain in the ass. So what do? I count them, and oh, okay, no, this is way too complicated. I want the data. I want to, you know, I want to show the business email addresses right there on that page. We don't need to start and searching for our information. So let me do this. Let me add an action grid really quickly to this page to show all of our contacts. And I'm gonna use the actual clicking on the pie sections to filter the okay, my bad, to filter the grid of the contact. Sorry. Let me add the grid. Let me add it here. Let me go to the grid and really quickly I can go. I'm gonna just choose from scratch. The data source I want to be contacts, and in my where clause, and you know, maybe it's too early, but let's say if I say email type equals to query string email type, let's say. So what this is gonna do is only gonna show me the contacts that have the email type equals to the query string email type. But you see in the URL right now, we don't have any, let's say first name, last name, email, and where's the email type? Email type name. Okay. Save and go back. So I have my basic action grid here, but it's not showing any value because the email type needs to be in the URL. So because it's not in the URL yet, it's not matching anything. So what I need to do is I need to click, I'll have to make the sections of the pie clickable. And when I click on them, I want to filter the grid below. So to make the ChartJs clickable, you just need to go to the, let me make this in a full screen. Just need to go to the options object and add this new parameter, which is called onClick. And the onClick one, it just have a functions with 2 parameters. I would like to, I don't really, I think, have the time to explain everything that's happening here, but for the moment being, what I would like to show is that when I click on one of the elements, I can get an alert. So I'm just gonna remove the debugger for the moment, click on, well, maybe I can leave it there in case I have problems. I can click on save, I can go back to the home page and refresh. I will open a console on my other screen. And let's start clicking on some of the pies. Okay, I clicked on this one. Let me, okay, my console is here. So give me 1 second. Are those value proper? Okay, I think this is gonna work just fine. Okay, oh, I click on something that is not properly defined, but I clicked on something that has the value number 3. So this is good. If I click here, it's gonna say that I click on, it should say schools with the value number 1, but I think I know what I did wrong, but I can modify it really quickly now. Because my column name is name. Well, JavaScript is capitalized, so this should have been a small number, as a small letter. Okay, so in this situation, I will like to, so the things that we need to do right now is we need to push on the query string the actual ID that we want to filter upon. So I will say that email type, I would like to be the clicked element dot ID. So what's going to happen when I click on something, the email, well, I think maybe it's easier for me to show you this. What's actually going to happen, let me refresh the page really quickly. when I click here, look here. Okay, see. So I have the email type 1 and my grid just filtered below. Let me remove the debugger. And if I click on personal, it's a you place on personal and then has a value 1. So now I have the grid filter based on this. And I think I have just 4 minutes left, so maybe I can show you just another nice trick. I'm gonna use the tab module to make the grid be a pop-up. So while this loads, let me just remove really quickly the debugger. Okay.
And the alert, please.
And the alert. Okay, yeah, sure. Oops. Okay, in any case, the tab module is here. I'm just gonna go and edit it really quickly. I'm gonna do some basic settings here, just for me to be easy. I'm gonna check full wide tabs. I'm gonna check. Well, I can leave it bootstrap. And the most important one is I want to open it in a model. So this one is gonna show me maybe a placeholder, the width, the height, and maybe the title. So drill down of email types. And I will need to add a new tab. And I'm gonna name it details. And in that details, I'm gonna add the newly added action grid. And I'm just gonna click save. And going back to the home page, I can refresh, and you can see the grid is not available anymore. You cannot see it anymore, but it's still there. But it's inside of a tab that is waiting to be opened in a pop-up. So if in case you want to open a tabs row in a pop-up, I'm gonna show you really quickly, but I'll need to capture. Okay. So what I'm looking for is actually the module ID here in the URL, because I will need to find on the page the specific module and trigger that one. In case you have multiple tabs pro module on the same page, you'll need to trigger the proper one. So what I will do, I'm just gonna filter the action grid by pushing the query string there, and after that I'm gonna open the tabs pro module with 535 module ID in a pop-up. So let's see what we got right now. Let me refresh really quickly the page again. So each time I'm doing some modification, I need to do this because we need to refresh the content behind the pies. And maybe I can also exit the edit mode before this. It doesn't want to. Anyway, I can click on here and you can see a pop-up showed with my grid, so I don't need to have the grid below. I don't need to scroll each time I want to see some more information. Okay, so these are my 3 emails. If I'm interested on clicking something else, I can click on the school and I'm only seeing my school information here in the grid. And I think this being said, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
One question from Jim Anthony. Radu using a DNSF JavaScript namespace. Where is that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, or let me try to read it as well? Oh, okay, yeah. So that's actually a very good question. So let me open a browser console. I think I already have one here. So all of our modules, at least Action Form, Action Grid, Tabs Pro, and another one or only these 3. We have each individual module. When you add it to the page, you're gonna have access to the DNN framework, front-end framework here, and you can just go and click API, and you can see all the modules, Action Form, Action Grid, Tabs Pro, all the modules here. You can access their front-end API. So for example, for Action Form, you may find out that you have like open pop-up by ID. So this is actually the code that the action that you are using on the button is actually calling. Is just here for example, action grid. Maybe you have an action grid. So for action grid, what you can do is you can trigger a refresh of the action grid just from adding the module ID here. So I'm assuming that it's 634. And you see, I just refreshed the action grid, which is not visible because, yeah, for reasons. And also for Tabs Pro, you have, like, you can change tabs, you can close the model, you can open the model, you can refresh a tab, you can show the loading animation. So there are a lot of small functions that you can hear, and the majority of them are based on the module ID.
Let me make sure to get these documented in properly, because there's a lot of power here. And I think just kind of bringing things back together, we've seen like a progression, right? A buildup of and you can see now the power of the KPI and tiles and dashboard module, right? Because it's doing all of this stuff for you and you're just setting a few settings. But even if we make 50 different visualizations, you're going to want to customize things. You're going to want to use your own, and you have that capability now as well. So you can see that there's very simple things like the Google chart, our tiles and dashboards, which are very powerful, but simple to configure. And then if you want to get into the code, and don't be intimidated by that. I've used these before and done things, and I'm not super programmer, right? You take the basic example that they give you, and just like Radu did, paste it in and see if the thing works with hard-coded values. And then you're just going to iterate your way towards doing whatever you want it to do, like he did. It's really pretty straightforward. And once you get one under your belt, you can unleash a lot of really great looking and interactive analytics.
Yes, and also another follow-up question from Jim Anthony. What console is that? So just press F12, I think in any browser works.
Yep.
Right?
The browser console.
So it opens this console, and in this console you have various tabs, but on this tab you can write JavaScript code on the console tab.
And as well as that will show you if there's errors or anything with what you're doing, they'll be in red there. So that this is very valuable to help you kind of debug and see if you're missing some syntax or something.
Yeah, you can. I play exactly as I'm doing here. I'm just running some of the open and the closing of the model. I can run the close one. I can run the open one. This is things that are happening on the website. And one really valuable one, and I think I should mention this again. This is the one, the update query string param. So this is actually gonna push. Let me move this on my other screen. This is gonna just push values or update values here in the URL based on the two values that you have inside it. So I'm just playing on my other side with.
Yeah. And without a page refresh, which is very important.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, we are near the end. Very, very interesting concept, and I really love the way that everything tied together today. So if nobody has anything else to add, I would just like to thank all of you for being here again in this webinar. We greatly appreciate your feedback. This helps us improve this webinar. So if you have any ideas, what you'd like to see, what you find challenging, we appreciate it quite a bit. There will be a follow-up form after this Zoom webinar where you can submit your feedback. And I guess we'll be seeing each other next week with new cool topics to cover. Thanks everyone, and have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye.